Auburn's 2026 schedule is absolutely brutal, but it doesn't matter.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Wanted to run through Auburn's 2026 schedule that was announced a few days ago, and I had to pre-record a lot of the shows that you guys have seen since then, so I wanted to take a few minutes on this Sunday morning edition of the show to dive into it. Yes, it's brutal. We all knew it was brutal when we saw the opponents. Now we get to see exactly the order and the layout of it. We knew it was going to be tough, but who cares? Who cares? Everybody's schedule in the SEC is tough now. That's what going from 8 SEC games to 9 SEC games looks like. And John Cohen giving up the Baylor game at home to play it in Atlanta makes it even tougher. Is it worth it from an NIL standpoint? We'll see. We'll see how the roster looks, but it certainly could be worth it. I'm not pushing back on that at all, but let's see what it looks like after the roster forms. To me, there's a main stretch there. There's a main stretch, and it's similar to what we've seen from Auburn in the past few years. And I imagine most conferences are going to be like that. The meat of the schedule in the middle. I think there's an opportunity for Auburn to stack some wins early in the season. And I also think there's a chance for Auburn to stack some wins late in the season, leading into the Iron Bowl that'll, of course, be in Tuscaloosa this upcoming season. Opening up with Baylor, Southern Miss, Florida, and Vanderbilt. Some of these things depends on a ton of the variables that are happening throughout the SEC. Ton of coaching changes. Auburn will play a lot of new coaches this upcoming season, as well as questions about quarterback and who's going to be leading these football teams both on and off the field. So leading things off with Baylor, Southern Miss, Florida, and Vanderbilt. I think all of these are manageable. Now, once again, a ton of variables from Auburn's point of view as well. How much can Alex Golesh hold on to this roster? But I do think that's a manageable stretch where if you want to achieve everything that is in front of you, you need to go 3-1 in that stretch. I think Baylor and Southern Miss are certainly beatable. And then obviously Florida and Vandy, we don't know. Florida's got a new coach. We'll see what happens with their quarterback and DJ Lagway. Vanderbilt, Clark Lee is absolutely cooking with that program right now. But can he do it without Diego Pavia? Yes, they got a 5-star quarterback coming in, but is he going to have that same level of impact? We'll see. And of course, Florida and Vanderbilt are both in Auburn. I think this could be a good opportunity for Auburn to stack wins early, but a ton of things are going to happen roster-wise before Auburn gets into this. And then it's the meat of the schedule. The following 4 games, I think, are a really, really big deal. And once again, there's variables here when it comes to coaches and obviously the players that come along with that. Playing at Tennessee, bye week at Georgia, brutal. That's really, really tough. And so we'll see exactly what Tennessee looks like next year. I don't love that the Georgia game on the road is the game after the bye week. I don't think that bye week is placed ideally because I don't know if that bye week gives you that extra juice enough to beat Georgia, where it could make you feel better going into maybe a game like Florida or Ole Miss or LSU. So I don't love the placement of that bye week, but they didn't ask me. After that, they host LSU, which once again could be manageable, but all the talk about, what Lane Kiffin is going to do with NIL and their roster. I mean, we just don't know what a lot of these teams are going to look like, but that looks like a tough one. But until we see, the final forms of all this, it's still going to be up in the air. And then at Ole Miss, another team where there's going to be a ton of questions. Can they hold on to their players despite being a college football playoff team? That's a team where we kind of expected to look totally different in just a few weeks from now when the portal does open because their head coach. I mean, we all saw the disaster that happened and Oxford with how they handled it. Some of it's on Ole Miss, some of it's on Lane Kiffin, some of it is just the current situation and calendar with college football. It's not ideal for this. And then I think you get a little bit of a stretch here where, okay, you can lick your wounds a little bit and say, all right, we can stack a few more wins going into the Iron Bowl, and then we can just see where the chips fall where they do. Arkansas at home, winnable. Yes, there's variables there too. I don't think it matters. Auburn should always beat Arkansas, especially in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I know that hasn't been the case lately, which is ridiculous, but that should be a win. At Mississippi State, Auburn should always beat Mississippi State. I don't care where that game's played. I know there's been some weird games against Mississippi State, especially in Starkville. Whatever. I think Auburn's going to have the offense. I think Jeff Lebby's going to have Mississippi State going too. Sure, I get it. There's also some talk about Mississippi State possibly pursuing Jackson Arnold, which can make that super, super interesting. And then they play Samford before they go to Tuscaloosa to play in the Iron Bowl. So I think there's two stretches that are super important. Just to clarify, the first four: Baylor, Southern Miss, Florida, Vandy, and then Arkansas at Mississippi State and Samford. You have to win as many of these games as possible. And then that middle stretch there is going to be brutal. At Tennessee, at Georgia, LSU, at Ole Miss, that's going to be tough. And then obviously going to Alabama is always going to be tough. So it's a tough schedule. Seeing it listed out, there's so many questions. You got to hope things fall in favor of Auburn, and Auburn dominates the portal better than these other teams. And I'm tired of just like winning on paper, right? Let's win on the field. So yes, it's tough. It doesn't matter. You're going to play Alabama and Georgia every year. You're going to have a tough schedule. Deal with it. This is what Auburn fans have asked for. This is what Auburn fans have done. They've won with tough schedules before. Hopefully, Alex Golesh can ring that in. There's a few games that I think are going to be more important than others. Obviously, not just who you're playing, but how they're positioned on the schedule. And I want to take a stab at that next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here. I mean, I know several days last week, I'm just kind of ordering stuff, making sure all of my Christmas lists are checked off. Aura Frames can help you with all of that. I didn't get any Aura Frames this year because I've gotten them in the past before they were an advertiser with us. But Aura Frames, it's the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way you can share memories over and over and over again. Anytime you get a picture that you want to share with your family, whether they're in town or out of town, you can kind of send it to them, or if you get their information for their app, you can kind of upload all of it. It's very fun. It's something that we do as a family. So you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is AURA, auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. The deal is exclusive to Locked On Auburn listeners. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel.com is where you can go to live bet. Hey, later today, a massive game between the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are a slight favorite, which I'm a little confused by. New England won in Buffalo earlier this year. They're expecting a rematch. And look, if you can bet on these games, NFL slate is going to be incredible as always. But the live betting aspect of FanDuel, because the games move fast. So one big play, suddenly everything feels different. You can live bet over at FanDuel as well. So if you want to get right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're going to do a million shows throughout the offseason on Auburn's schedule. And my opinion on this may change, especially with storylines that come out of the portal. And I don't think the coaching carousel's fully done because you got stuff that's happening in the playoff and whatever. But there's going to be a few games that are going to be more interesting than others and more impactful than others. I think that first SEC game that Auburn has when they host Florida, I think it's going to be a pretty big deal. I think it's going to be two coaches that Auburn was kind of tied to John Sumrall, kind of. They were the favorite. They were the leader in the clubhouse for a long time with John Sumrall. And these two guys are kind of in a similar situation. Both previously P4 coaches, Alex Golesh and John Sumrall. They're going to be squaring off. This is going to be a massive game for both of these men, for both of these programs, because whoever wins this one's going to feel a lot better about their hire, and whoever loses this one is going to feel a lot worse about their hire. Because look, they're in similar situations. Florida's roster was not bad. Brandon Olson of Locked On Gators talked about the Florida roster the same way we did here on Locked On Auburn, that, hey, this is a talented roster. You should be able to win, but the coaching held these two rosters back. We'll see how much John Sumrall can hold that Florida roster together. And, we're in the process of seeing how much Alex Golesh can hold this Auburn roster together. So I think that SEC opener against Florida is going to be huge. And I think, Auburn needs this one, but so does Florida. So that one's going to be crucial. I think going to Tennessee is going to be cool because I think this is one of those first games where Alex Golesh is going to have maybe a little extra pressure on him. I hope that one's a little personal for him going against his guy, Josh Heupel, in a place where he was very successful as an offensive coordinator. I can't wait for all the storylines that week going into that game. Of course, him returning to Knoxville. And then, look, October 24th, after Auburn plays a tough game on the road in Athens, they return home and they host Lane Kiffin and LSU. Similar situation. I mean, Lane Kiffin was seen as the prize this coaching carousel. LSU got him. They ponied up. They ponied up with guaranteed NIL. They ponied up with contracts. They ponied up with paying his staff. Lane Kiffin chose LSU. He didn't choose Auburn a few years ago. When Auburn thought they had him, he says no at the last moment, reportedly, and then Auburn goes with Hugh Freeze. It's the first time Lane Kiffin, since all that has happened, is coming back to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Jordan-Hare Stadium that night will be electric. It'll be the best environment in college football that day. I don't care what time that game is played. It's going to be awesome. So, but in a similar situation, right? I mean, Auburn reportedly giving Alex Golesh $30 million to reload a roster. So he needs to compete with this quick arms race. This race against ourselves is what Alex Golesh said in his opening presser, to beat John Sumrall of Florida as they come to Auburn, and to beat Lane Kiffin with LSU as LSU comes to Auburn. I love that both of these games against these coaches that are in similar situations are at home. Let's throw a third one. Another first-year head coach, Arkansas, with Silverfield. Is that his name? I know it's Silver something. Silverfield. It feels wrong saying it, but I'm pretty sure that's right. But I love that all three of these first-year coaches are matching up with Auburn's first-year head coach in Auburn. If you win those three games, like, you can have a really successful season, because I think everything else falls into place. That's a big if. That's a big if. I understand that, but I just wanted to highlight that. It's kind of, I haven't been able to come on here and discuss Auburn's schedule. So too early to pick wins and losses. I want to see the rosters form throughout the portal. We'll do that. We'll do it again after spring, and then we'll do it probably every few weeks in the summer, because it's going to be a longer offseason the past few, because the spring portal window is no longer a thing. So very fun stuff. But I think those matchups against first-year head coaches with our first-year guys going to be awesome. And then, of course, him returning to Tennessee is going to be electric to face his former mentor, Josh Heupel. So there you go. Which games, way too early, but which games are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments or on social media. Would love to hear y'all's thoughts on all of that. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Did you know that Locked On Auburn did Locked On Auburn make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and they'll drop you a code. Shout out to Locked On Admin. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to our members-only Discord channel. So please, please, please do that. I know a lot of you guys reached out to me a few weeks ago with that. Do that again so y'all can get that for free. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.